One, two, three, one, two, three.
1, 2, 6, 1, 2, 6.
And welcome back to another episode of our Fatherly Love podcast. Today we have a couple of interesting topics we're going to talk about. Firstly, of course, my name is Nikola and this is my co-host Rajko. So today we're going to cover some interesting things. But first, let's go into something about our childhood because that's how we start every episode because we think it connects to the topics we talk about very easily. So we just Rajko talked to our mom, and she talked about something interesting. Go ahead.
So yeah, today we're talking about milestones, Montessori, and AI that's helping actually rats read their minds, and all of that kind of pointed us in that direction of thinking about our own milestones and um, development, and eventually evolving into rats with AI in their brains. I'm just kidding, but yeah, the milestones and everything. So we just started talking about it, and we figured out it's very interesting that uh, we also had some interesting stuff to talk about. So whenever we talk about milestones, it's just that topic that's always having that I would say continuous pressure on parents and on children. So just to give it a little bit of scope. Um, when I was younger, back around 2 years, I was already able to speak properly and figure out the sentences and build sentences by myself. I was not using I don't know how you say it on English, but tepanye for some words.
So basically, not using baby language. So there was
Yeah, I was
no.
not using baby language.
Yeah.
Was no da da, no what is this water? I wouldn't say vada. It was something like that. I was properly saying all the words, and other kids were not. And after month or 2 months, I reversed back to their level, and I started speaking baby language.
And this
And
is
my mom
because
was like,
this is before. So Rajko was basically speaking properly before he got to kindergarten. And then our mother enrolled us or enrolled
yeah,
Rajko in the kindergarten, that's where
yeah.
the 1 or 2 month he's talking about. He was surrounded by kids
So
his age.
but by kids my age who were not on that level of speaking, they were using baby language still, and I just reversed in a month or two to that level. And my mom was like worried, what's going on, blah blah blah. And then the teacher explained like it's a normal thing, he's just fitting in. That's a great social skill, And then they were playing, we were play games in the kindergarten. I like the teacher would ask, okay, what is this? And then they would say, and then, okay, how do you properly say it? And then I would say it like properly. But between us, I was always, using baby language.
And it's such an interesting thing because you want to assimilate with the group you're surrounded with, but then like when the teacher would ask you something, you're like, oh yeah, you say it like this, so you would like right away give the correct answer. And the reason why we're talking about this is to give you an idea of how anxiety ridden parenthood and childhood milestones can be, because we were reading about this topic for a little bit, and we're going to leave an article that's going to talk about this in the description down below. But it really goes through how certain milestones can put pressure on parents, but also on children. So what often happens is there would be this
Counterproductive,
almost,
yeah.
yeah, like a reverse effect where the children would get so frustrated or anxious about certain things, and then they would
They
regress. Yeah,
they would not be able to progress. They would actually just stagnate or regress out of fear and anxiety, not because they're not capable of doing it, but because of the pressure that's coming from parents.
yeah,
And sometimes it's not parents, more often than not, that can be relatives and close family and stuff like that. But definitely the outside pressure.
yeah. And they usually say that girls, for example, do the potty training faster than boys. Raiko and I specifically, we were about a year and a half, knowing what our mother told us. We were about a year and a half when we both were potty trained. However, my stepson, Constantine, he was kind of like a late bloomer into that, but then might have been like a couple of things, right? Were me and my wife super anxious about it, or was he just feeling that we were anxious is not progressing in that field? For example, we knew he was gonna get there, but he was definitely probably a couple months uh, behind, quote unquote, on that milestone. And Raiko has a couple of.
What is the what when you say you were anxious and giving pressure, what do you mean by that?
So we would try to be on top of it to a point where we would check him like every half an hour, right? Because we were trying not to miss the opportunity of teaching him how to use the potty, right? I even went to a length where I bought, which was very strange now that I think about it, but it was fun to him. It was um, like a frog shaped children peeing training thing. So you know how you
Hmm?
go to a men's restroom, you have the little how do you call them in English? I'm not sure. The urinals. So it's like a mini urinal for for a baby boy, and he goes there and
Okay.
there's like a spinny thing. So if he pees on it, it will start spinning. So it's almost like a little toy that they learn how to use a urinal, right? To learn how to pee. So I think now in retrospect is that we were on top of it so much that it maybe gave him anxiety over potty time, right? So he was a late bloomer with that. He was probably like 2.5, I would say, um, maybe even a little bit older by the time he was fully out of diapers, and
You,
that is completely fine. But it just goes to show how,
of course it is.
because every kid is different, and every kid is going to go through these milestones differently. They're going to reach them, and there's actually in the article that we're going to mention is it goes to show how, for example, a child that starts walking at 11 months, they might not start running until like 17, 18 months, but a child that started walking at 16 months, they might already be running by the time they're 17 months. So it's like it's very different and very individual, um, depending on the child, of course.
Yeah. And all these milestones are set there, and you have a couple of different, I would say, websites, or even like a proper website that's giving you a full like perspective of what can you expect. And from one point of view, I totally get it. Parenting is not coming with an instruction manual. That's something that we are going by in this podcast. But and it helps, and that's for sure. But it's only helpful as you use it as a help tool, not as a set in stone uh, manual, right? So for example, you can get on this website. We will post it in the podcast, and then you can get through it. You have getting pregnant, pregnancy, first year toddler, family, baby products, registry builder, registry, community news. So you have a community of people that are on that website and sharing their thoughts and things and stuff like that. But when you click on first year, then you have like everything uh, about it, like newborn care, month by month, milestones, breastfeeding, bottle feeding, everything explained. So if you get into the development milestones month by month or period, you have by 4 months, they should smile, laugh, like to play with you, start to babble, cry in different ways to show hunger, pain, fatigue. I mean, I didn't know what's the different cry. I don't even know now. I don't like, I think that the moms only can feel the different cries of a baby, to be honest. I don't know how can you defer a different cry. I don't know. It's just something that's a
Mother's
natural thing.
instinct.
I mean, when you exactly, and when you see your kid, I mean, you can see, is he crying out of pain or he's crying because of a tantrum? I don't know. You learn that. You can't know that by the 4 months. I mean, I don't know. Some things are just not making any sense. Then holds head steady. That was a big thing. May roll from tummy to back. That was also a big thing we discussed throughout. time when he was kind of developing and stuff like that. Uh, and it's always that pressure. Oh my God, is he already holding head? Is he not? And then is he standing? Is he walking? Can he do this? Can he do that? I mean, Vuki, my son, was teethless until first like 2 days or a couple of days after his first birthday. He started teething, so he didn't have any teeth. And have got that funny point when uh whatever he starts crying and he's nervous and we give him, for example, food. He's not hungry, give him toy. Like we're like, oh my God, is he teething? It's his teeth. He's nervous because he's teething. I'm like, there's all the pressure about it. And it's just something that I don't think is productive. I mean, the
It can
kid
definitely
has
be
to.
a counterproductive thing, especially for the kid, because they can feel your energy, they can react to how you're reacting to those things, and that's why I think it's so interesting how, especially with Wookie, because his wife
Yeah.
would joke about it sometimes. She's like, "Is he ever gonna have teeth?" And we would laugh about it, but
I would
they
say,
all
all right, please, come on, give me one kid that that did not have any teeth. And she's like, uh, like confused and everything, and I'm like, there you go. I mean, that's not gonna happen.
yeah,
But yeah,
yeah.
and then funny thing also with I just read here, for example, from 13 to 18 months, they say several words, scribble on their own, points one body part, can follow one-step verbal commands. Like points to a one body part, Wookiees learned that at 11 or 12, 2 months before that milestone. It says here between 13 and 18 months. What he's like, is he an advanced kid because of that? Of course not, but we were working on it with him on it. We were repeating that every day, and that's what he learned.
Yeah.
Also, with, for example, eating. So I started working with him on his eating by himself at, I think it was 11 months or a year, and he was already holding a spoon and trying by himself. It was not the food that is just falling apart or something like that. It was like compact food like rice or something like that, and he would struggle, but I would give him one spoon in one hand, other spoon in another hand, and he
Motor
learns how
skills.
to use both hands. But he has motor skills, but you know and then Theodora was my wife. She was not doing that with him because she was busy. She works and stuff like that. I was on a vacation that time, and I could, I'm just like, I like that. For me, that was like a game, and she was not paying attention on it. I mean, it's just not something that would interest her. She was having a lot of things going on around her, and he just stopped doing it. And now he can use them both, and he uses the fork, and he's angry when you try to feed him, he's just, developing that part. But it's just so funny that, I mean, milestones, yes, but I mean, as long as you work with that kid, he will learn that because you're repeating that and working on that. So,
Yeah, it all comes in due time. Um, the point of the story is don't stress about your child not hitting milestones that are set on a website that some random person wrote.
yeah,
Possibly
and
how they come
also,
up possibly how they come up with these numbers is through averages, right? So let's say 90% of kids do this and that through months 13 and 18. That's fine, but your kid doesn't have to be in that 90%. It's just how most kids approach that goal. Like
absolutely.
the same
And
way
I'm
Raiko's son got his teeth a year after, which is probably later than not a year after, but after his birthday, like a couple weeks after his
Yeah.
birthday. That doesn't mean that he's not in the same percentile as the other kids.
My friend's daughter started dating at 3 months.
It's crazy.
At 3 months, 7 months, like what, 9 months apart.
Yeah,
Like it's just crazy. And it's just something that you should not stress about. Even if it's not on a random website, even if a pediatrician tells you that she would be doing that and that, just like there's gonna be a lot of, I would say, advices from everybody around. And I'm a kind of person that really does not want to give too many advices because we are all having their individual situations in life, and not same advice works in two different situations. But listen to your kid, to your baby, and that is the most important thing. And they will communicate it to you.
Yep.
They might not they might not use words, but they will find a way.
Yeah, and that this perfectly kind of like tags along on our second segment, or second topic that we wanted to talk about, which is the
Mhm.
Montessori method. And this basically talks about a different uh, teaching approach for children, compared to the traditional, kindergarten school methods that have been used for years and years and years. So, Raiko, do you want to kind of give us an intro, and then we can start a little discussion about it?
Yeah, Maria Montessori was one of first female doctors, pediatricians in Italy. She was working in the beginning of 20th century, and kind of was a pioneer, and someone who really changed the education in a way that we know it. So back in the day, it was even worse. So we are having this educational system that's dating back to very, very old times, in which I'm not very uh, favorable of, and I'm also even thinking about homeschooling my children, because this kind of school is at the moment not something that I'm a fan of. But Montessori did something totally different. She approached kids, so she started actually working with children in asylums, and she figured out that if she gives them more freedom, um, they would actually improve better. And She developed that system throughout the beginning of 20th century, and just spread it around the world. Died off. She died in, I think, 1940s or something like that, 1950s. And Right at that time, just that concept was starting to die out. But then in the United States, 1954, uh, it picked up again. One school opened, and yeah, the rest is history. Now it's one of very, very popular and very uh, world-renowned methods. Basically, they have for every age group, they have a different, I would say, kind of approach, uh, different methodology. But the concept says one very interesting, I would say, structure. So they have five principles. That's respect for the kid, the absorbent mind, sensitive periods, the prepared environment, and auto education. So all of this is kind of actually given on a nice and posted around very good values that I am liking, and that are making sense to me, because kids need freedom. Most of their time should be spent in play, and that's how they learn. That's how they experience world. That's how they, just progress in their lives. So I'm feeling that in today's world, there's so much pressure in regarding kids. Everybody should be Beethoven or Bach or Jeff Bezos or Elon Musk's, or everybody is expecting from their children to excel and stuff like that. Yes, Larry Page and Sergey Brin, co-founders of Google, and Jeff Bezos, the founder of Amazon, they were attending Montessori schools, but that is not a guarantee that your kid will excel. And if you are going to go and get your kid in one of these educational systems just because you want him to be one of the richest mans in on earth, or to be the best in this and that, I mean, I don't think that
It's a
is the
selfish, and in a
right
way, it's
approach.
selfish way for
Yeah,
your child to fulfill the dreams you have as a parent. And a lot of
but
sorry, go ahead.
on the other hand, they also have in Montessori like a 4C of success, I would say, frame, which says critical thinking, collaboration, creativity, and communication. And if we compare that to today's leadership styles and stuff like that, you have all of that right there. So they are definitely being prepared for the world in a different way than I would say in traditional schools.
Yeah, so the Montessori, she opened the first school in 1907, where she actually led the school. And then when the fascist Italy took over, originally they were supporting that I that the approach of teaching, but then they realized that kids are made to openly think, to have freedom, to be independent, and that did not go well with the ideology of fascist, which wanted people that are not thinking for themselves, that are following a regime that's going to fulfill whatever crazy ideas Mussolini and other leaders had. So it is very interesting how that dynamic broke into something that came to the U.S. and now it's one of the probably one of the most popular teaching methods for I would say younger parents, meaning my generation and Rajko's generation, where parents are seeing that there's different approaches than just sending a kid to a Christian school or to a public school or to a private school that has a very standardized per se system, right? And my wife actually wanted to enroll our stepson, my stepson, her son, to a kindergarten that was based on the Montessori method. So she took him there to a conversation, right? They have to talk, see if the kid is a good fit. And then after that, if there's space, they put you on a wait list or whatever. It's a crazy wait list where we're supposed to wait 8 or 9 months for a spot, which just goes to show how crowded they are. And they also have limited spots. So in traditional schools, you will have a teacher take care of 30 kids, right? In schools like this, you will have a teacher take care of 6 or 7 kids maybe, and they will pay close attention to them. And then what they do, from what was explained from this specific kindergarten, they probably do it differently at different ones. But it's very interesting is that the teacher would actually let the child play, and they will see if the child's interest is piqued by something specific. So if they pick up a book, if they pick up a object, if they pick up a toy. So it can be anything. It can literally be an animal. It can be a cube that needs to fit into something. So once the children's mind is piqued and they're focused on a task, they will dedicate the time to that child and work with that child so they can understand that specific thing they're interested in. Because you can, I mean, Raiko knows also with Wookie, how many times you see that the child is just not interested in something and you try to force it and you
Yeah,
try to explain it to them and they're like, yeah, I don't care. Like they already know at like a year old or year and a half old, I'm interested in this, I'm not interested in this. And that's what
that
Montessori
is
method does well is it uses that moment to kind of like teach the child quickly about something they're interested in.
so that is actually a whole point of Montessori. They're having these playrooms, and so they describe this, and I felt that it's very interesting. So first of all, teachers are role models, so they are acting as a role model, and that is a philosophy of Montessori is that children are also independent, just as we read it before, and they have their own character, and they have to be nourished. They absolutely can't be set in a box, right? So you have to find a shape for them, and so teachers are very knowledgeable. Teachers are very knowledgeable. They're acting as role models, and they are always, just as you said, Nicola, they are looking in the interest of the kid. And they said like kids sometimes feel like, oh my God, I have everything. Like everything is setting, so perfectly. Like I don't know what's happening, but teacher actually is putting these objects around the room. They're not giving them these objects. They're just putting them around so they by themselves discover them and they are like, "Oh my God," I'm like, but they're actually having that, perfect balance of
It's a mind
controlled
game.
and
Yeah.
free environment, and that's helping them, build their self-esteem, build their freedom, build their openness, and everything goes out from there. And one very, very interesting thing is that just yesterday I was having a new supervisor at job, and I was explaining him what is he going to be doing and this and that, and we're just introducing each other. And I think he's late 40s, starting in the 50s, and he's like, "Oh yeah, I'm in my middle ages and stuff like that." And it's just so funny that I just learned 10 years ago that you can do what you love and earn money. You just have to try hard and give it all. And I'm like, that is the exact problem of so many parents. Like, they would tell you you can't do that because, Nicola, you can't be a gamer. Like, because it's not a good thing. I mean, it's just sad to hear. I was very sad, but on the other hand, it's very good that he figured it out sooner rather than later.
Oh, for sure. And that just goes to show that even though we're adults, like no adult is gonna tell you, "Oh, this is a blueprint to success." Yeah, it might have worked for you, and there might be some guidelines that will help you navigate. But in reality, even when we're adults, if something piques our interest, we will learn that, just like children. And if you kind of take a step back and let children interest themselves in something without not forcing them, but without giving them the impression that, hey, this is what you should be looking at, like if you put them in front of a bookshelf and they're really not in a mood to or interested in books, they're not going to care for it. So just let them do their thing. If you see that they're piqued their interest with something specific, go approach them and kind of go to their level and try to explain it slowly to them, and they will get it just like that. For the listeners that don't see the video, I just snap my fingers. They will get it very fast. So another thing that we wanted to discuss and talk about is how uh, the AI, artificial intelligence, is being used in conjunction with virtual reality to track certain information and display it on a completely different output. Specifically, as we said in the beginning, we're going to talk about rats because always they're testing things on rats, the pinky and the brain. And they basically took
Thinking the brain or math, mice, I think.
rats, mice. They're both smart. Anyway, they they realized that they can scan brain activity from rats, and then they can utilize AI and virtual reality to allow rats
Move objects.
to allow rats to move objects in real time. So obviously it started bad, and then rats started improving. And this just goes to show that uh, it always reminds me of Ready Player One, which is a book that was made into a movie. I never read the book, to be honest, but I watched the movie and it was very interesting. And it basically goes over how in 50, 60, 70 years, we're going to live in a dystopia where you just put a headset on, like you put a helmet on, and you're in this augmented reality. You're moving, you're doing everything with your mind. So you're just like, you know, laying there like a potato, but in that augmented reality you're doing all these different things. And it always reminds me of this because that's where we're headed. Like these are small steps that are happening, but this is where we're going towards. Go ahead, Raiko.
I would just have to correct you. You're not using your mind in that game. So you're actually having a virtual reality headset, and you can buy a suit, and you have gloves, and you are on a treadmill that's around, and you have straps all around you. So you're strapped in a spot, and you run in spot and
Oh,
move
it's the
around in one
infinity treadmill.
spot.
That's right. That's right.
Yeah,
That's right. Yeah, yeah, yeah,
yeah.
yeah. Yeah.
So
Sorry.
you're not like
Yeah, yeah.
being, so you're not being like lazing like a lazy couch potato. You're actually doing something,
Yeah, yeah, yeah,
burning
yeah.
calories.
No,
All
I
right.
was, yeah. I was thinking of two different things. My bad. But
Yeah.
it
Yeah.
is
Yeah.
still very interesting how, we're moving towards this future, and our kids are probably gonna live through it where there's gonna be augmented reality. You're gonna be able to jump into a
Everywhere. Yeah.
world that's going to be, completely different.
Yeah,
And
well, and then this actually can lead to so many different things and so many different topics. Like, for example, I can see Google Lens coming back to life very soon in a very advanced uh, version. I also saw, of course, one experiment on a rat that was playing Doom. He's
oh, I was
on
gonna
a
say that.
big
Yeah.
yeah, he's on a ball
Doom
and
is
when he
for
moves
people that
his
don't know,
feet,
it's a video game that's basically a old school shooter type game. It's a scroller, so it's fairly simple in controls, but a rat was
excuse me,
able to
sir,
play it.
can you let our listeners just explore by themselves and use Google and be creative and look for what is Doom?
Yes, yes. Well, let's let them.
There you go. Give them freedom, right?
There we go. There we go.
Montessori.
A perfect teaching moment. Yeah.
I'm just joking. Yeah, so he's playing that game and he's running on that ball and just it's crazy what AI and what technology is kind of on a go to bring us. And of course, our children are just going to be surrounded by it. So they would not like we already have this epitome, I would say, of out of room working or home working, and people are not going in the offices anymore that much. Imagine in 20 years you would just put your VR laying in your bed and you would have your laptop over there. You would just type in air with your fingers, and you would not have to have anything physical on you. You would just you know like
That's
crazy.
Yeah, and it's so funny that you mentioned that because I got a VR headset not too long ago, and the first time I put it on, you basically have this like virtual room, and literally what Raiko was saying, like you will have a virtual keyboard, so I can take my hands and with for the listeners, basically you can point with your index fingers, and it will point that on the controller, and you can actually in the virtual room click on the little keycaps, and so you can type it out, and then you can take your monitors, like if you have multiple monitors you can move them around, so you can make your virtual workstation. Basically I did it for a while. It gets very it puts a big strain on your eyes, and you can get motion sickness, but I'm sure that that technology is going to develop. And that reminds me actually about kids. It Our kids might be learning in 20 years exclusively from virtual classrooms, right? And then
Yep.
it reminds me of this period when the pandemic started. Constantine, my stepson, had uh, probably a solid year of from homeschooling, and they were on a tablet, and that's amazing on its own, right? There was a teacher that was able to teach a whole class of 20 kids over a Zoom call. It was amazing. Like it was very tough on the parents and on the teachers, but it's a step in a direction that's inevitable. Like the kids are going to be able to
Well,
live in Mexico and go to school in China. Like literally it would be
it's just
that simple.
effort is needed. It's a pioneering thing, if every pioneering thing has to be hard. I mean, it's
For
just,
sure.
and there's a very nice saying that I have actually on a background on my phone that says, "Hard times create strong men create good times create weak men, and weak men create hard times." So that is actually it's a very old saying, and it's just saying that, everything at the beginning has to be hard, kind of, and then it develops in something much, much easier. And then we get into that period of having that laid back
Almost too
period of,
much.
being everything, yeah, being over accessible. And that's one of very famous Serbian, I would say, pediatricians is talking about a lot is that kids nowadays are too overwhelmed with information. They are having so many things, and they get I don't know how you say it on English. Please help me, Nikola. Prezasićeni.
Oversaturated with information. Basically, you're trying to, and there's a we can look it up online, but I think they say that nowadays in a day we consume as much information, meaning either consciously or subconsciously. Like right now, I have, for example, 3 monitors. I'm absorbing all of this information that's happening to me. I'm absorbing ads. I'm absorbing this conversation. All of these different things. So they say that nowadays in a day we get as much information as people in the early 1900s would take in for a year. I think is the comparison,
For a
right?
full year, new information, new
Yeah,
information.
yeah. So they would get as much new information in a year compared to us that we get it in one day, in 24 hours, we get as much information, new information, as people 100 years ago would get it in 365 days. So it is just amazing where everything's moving. It is, I say this often, but it is terrifying. But that's where our children are going to be living in, and we just got to make it the best we can. So I think we're going to start wrapping it up. I think Raiko has something to tell us here in a minute.
Oh yeah, I totally forgot.
Uh-huh. I caught him. I caught him. Not gonna let him go.
Oh my God. Yeah. So yeah, we're trying to make this so we're trying to make this to be like a random thing in a podcast, and we just seem not to be able to do it. It always gets to the point of me reminding Nikolai and Nikolai reminding me, and it just we wanna make the dad joke time like a random thing in the podcast,
Surprise!
but surprise, it's a dad joke time. So listen to this. My wife is really mad at the fact that I have no sense of direction, so I packed up my stuff and write. I was laughing so hard. Oh my God. Imagine your wife, okay, I'm writing. You tell her your wife, okay, I'm writing. She would be so pissed. Like, she's yelling at you, my freaking God, can you not park or can you not turn right every time you make a wrong turn? You always turn right instead of left. I'm writing.
Oh, I'm
But
gonna.
funny enough, I know one person that's having a huge problem with direction. So she's actually having two different rings on two different hands. And when you ask her, Lana, where's left? And she's like, here. She
Uh,
would first like touch the
the
rings
rings.
on her finger, and that's how she knows which direction is. I mean, it's so weird,
It's
Like
weird,
it's
but we're all different, and that just goes to show,
Exactly, but
like,
it's so interesting that you just don't think about it, right?
yeah,
In
yeah.
that sense, until someone tells you, "I don't know where's left." Literally, I don't know where's left. I'm like, "What do you mean?" Like, I thought she's like, "Yeah, dude." And then you think about it, and imagine you're driving and you have to turn somewhere, and it's a traffic rush hour or whatever, and people are honking around you. Imagine that level of stress.
Yeah, yeah. That has to be like a ton of anxiety.
But it also produces a lot of funny moments when, we would just walk and I would randomly say, "Runaways left here."
So before we sign off with today's episode, uh, one advice that I can give you guys is that take a step back before you approach a situation with your child. Uh, it will give you much better results than just jumping the gun. When you think that they're interested in something, or you think that they are doing something without them actually doing it. I'm the first one that struggles with that because I jumped the gun. I'm very impulsive. I'm very uh, I'm a reactionist. So basically, instead of taking a step back, I will most of the time just jump the gun, do something, and be like, oh, I'll realize it in a moment. I should have approached it differently. And it's a teaching moment every time for you and for your child, but it is a valuable lesson. And just try to take it as a improvement rather than a mistake. Um, don't be so hard on yourself when that happens, because at the end of the day, no, all these parents will give you all these different kinds of advice, and they'll tell you that your child should do this or that, or they should act this or that. um, do you don't worry about what other parents are doing. We're here to have healthy
Yeah,
conversations and discussions about what works for us. And because we, like, I have one point of view, Raiko has another point of view, and then you have your point of view. When you combine all three of those points of view, maybe you come up with a different solution than you originally had. So that's what we aim to do with this podcast. We hope you find it valuable and interesting. Um,
yeah.
so that's going to be it for today's episode. Thank you guys so much for watching and listening. And we will see you guys in episode 8. Jeez.
Oh my.
Almost
It
coming
was
up
so
to
fast.
10. Whew. It's gonna be we're
Very
gonna do something
excited.
special. Very nice, very nice. We gotta do something
Very
special.
excited.
If you didn't get it by now, we love Borat. So, Rajko
Support
loves
your local
his,
team.
yeah, like
We
him.
didn't talk about sports yet. We'll get there. I want to hear dads who want to hear something sporty.
Yeah,
Give
if
me
you're
some
interested in
sports topics.
sports, tell us which sport you like. Let's go off of that, um, and then I can pretend that I'm well versed in the topic, and Rajko can just go for it.
I'll give you some articles and some info to read on it, and then you can just give your point of view on it. It's
Oh
just
yeah,
that
yeah.
is the whole point.
Oh yeah, for
Just
sure.
give your point of view. I mean, you don't have to be something who's an expert. I'm not an expert. I'm terrible with names, with years, with whatever. But I just love the sport. I love the concept of it, and just love to talk about it.
Yeah, for sure. Definitely some interesting conversation we're going to have in the future. Um,
Guys, thank you so much for listening, staying tuned. You have our email address. I think what's the email address, Nicola?
fatherly love
You didn't mention
podcast
that.
at gmail.com. Sorry, Rajko was
There you
interrupting.
go.
Fatherlylovepodcast.com. Jeez Louise. Fatherlylovepodcast at gmail.com. Send us your stories, your suggestions, and we will see you in the next episode. Have a wonderful day. Bye.